Welcome to Your Time to Thrive with personal fitness coach Jason Stevenson.
Hi, friends. Happy Wednesday. Thank you for joining us today. This is Jason, your leader, I guess, and host. We're talking today with an amazing woman and friend of mine and the unofficial co-host of the show, Megan Habershaw. Welcome to the Your Time to Thrive podcast.
Hello.
Welcome back.
You finally got me back on since I've been chirping in the comments every Wednesday.
Well, that's why we call you the unofficial co-host. Ben would like a little bit of like, the commisery, the balance, the other side. But you have certainly inputted an awful lot throughout the time that we've been doing this. So thank you.
Well, it falls in my work from home, able to listen to anything.
There's certainly a positive side to that, huh? Yeah, and you've been but you haven't just been like, listening, and you haven't been just, randomly chiming in, which is always invited and always encouraged from our listeners out there, because we like the input. It helps me, it helps Ben, it helps our guests, because we know that people are listening, but it also helps carry the conversation in a direction that's beneficial. But you've also had some great input and some great some pieces that we've actually taken the show further because of.
Well, I try. No, I think you guys talk about a lot of great things, and I try to live with intention as much as I can. So if I'm going to listen to something, I'm going to make sure it's beneficial and take what I can out of it.
Well, thank you for that. I appreciate that. We're talking today, folks. The topic is your Time to Thrive, obviously, is the podcast. Let's get this English straight today. The topic today is know when to hold them, know when to fold them. And it's kind of a continuation of the conversation that Ben and I were having last week, but it was precipitated by a conversation I had with one of my clients about a youth in sports. Just to be generic on this, it's a child of this woman that I was speaking to, and they're dealing with some stuff in sports, dealing with coaches, dealing with the teams, the nuances of all of that, emotional connections and the disconnections. And anybody who has played on a sport and played on a team can commiserate with that. But the conversation that we were having was this particular individual did not want to quit. They'd committed to the team, they'd committed to the season, and they didn't want to quit. Their mom had instilled upon them that sense of commitment. You start something, you finish it. And what her mom was trying to say to them at this time was, listen, it can be okay. Sometimes you got to know when to kind of walk away. And that was a big step, because as kids we're taught, like you make a commitment, right? Like you got to finish it out. But I find that as we progress into like from kids to adults and from college into, normal life stuff, those choices become ours. And then there's a lot more responsibility on our part for that, right? Like, because we used to do it as kids, like this is what our parents wanted us to do. And, you have to almost like, and I remember having this conversation with you that your lifestyle and your, like what you do until you graduate from college is pretty much ordained. Like it's dictated by what your folks want you to do mostly, or by those around you. And now we get out into the wide world and it's like, now you have to make all those choices.
Yeah. Decision making is the hardest thing.
Do you remember talking about that?
I do. And actually, I also, keeping with the youth sports type deal, I grew up in youth sports. I played softball for 16 years. Yeah. Outside of softball, I played youth basketball. I played soccer from time to time. I did, sports were my life. And when it was time to, hang up my cleats and gloves, it's a difficult decision. You don't want to hurt the people around you. And this can go for any decision that you make. A lot of times you think about, oh, what about my teammates? What about what if I disappoint the coaches? What if I, disappoint my parents? But in reality, I just wasn't having fun anymore, you know? And my parents were completely supportive and everything. It's just, if you're not having the fun, it's not going to be a good experience. It's not going to be there. If people are taking fun out of it for you, like if your coaches are not good coaches, which sometimes they're not, because a lot of times, especially with youth sports, it's the parents coaching, and it's not always the easiest thing. Or they may not have experience or the qualifications to be a coach. You never know what the situation is. Maybe you're not having a good jive with your teammates. Maybe there's too much drama going on, which also happens in youth sports. And it's okay to make that decision. At that time when I made the decision I think I was 16 when I stopped playing, which is the most of my life. It's how do you go from playing on the softball field 3 days in a row, right? Every weekend, all summer long, all year long, practicing, playing, coaching, being with my coaches and teammates all the time. How do you just go walk away from that? But I wasn't happy, and it wasn't adding to my happiness at that time. And I just felt like I needed to do other things, which can happen in life too, right? If you're not having fun, why keep doing what you're doing? I think you talk about that play aspect. You and Ben talk about play all the time. And it's so true. If you're not having fun, what's the point of all of this? If you're not enjoying the things you're doing, what's the point?
Yes. Not to be construed or confused with things that we still need to do. Like, I wouldn't say I enjoy brushing my teeth, but I have to do that. I don't enjoy the load of laundry I just threw in the wash, but you have to do some things, but you can enjoy the process, right? Listen to music that you like, or, listen to a podcast that you like while you're doing those things. Maybe enjoy that space and that time anyway. Right. But it is a good process to go through to kind of disseminate what is helping you. Right. You said it. What is making you happy, or what is helping you, right?
What's
like if it's
serving
not
your goals, taking that pause to figure out what you need and what's not serving you is really important. Kind of like we talked about, sitting in that discomfort.
Yeah.
I think it took me 4 months to figure out that I actually wanted to quit after already a year of playing and not being happy. It takes time. Certain things obviously aren't that deep, but I don't know, you just gotta figure out what's right for you at the time, and that I think that could change also. Just because it works for you at one point doesn't mean it's gonna work for you now or future self. So,
do you evaluate stuff like that, like annually, regularly, quarterly? Do you have a process?
Quarterly, I would say. I every 3 or 4 months, right? I try to figure out what has been going on with me in those 3 months. I usually use it as I'm holding my thing because I'm talking at my work desk.
Same thing.
Yeah, every 3 to 4 months, I journal about what happened in that 3 to 4 months. It's been a really good tool for me, when I'm in my low points, or when I'm struggling with something. It's well, why am I struggling with this? And I try and break it down to figure out, what is the cause of that? What is the underlying root emotions around that? But also focus on what's the good in that 3 months. What did I do well? What did I, really enjoy doing? What did I, provide joy for other people around too, but yeah, and then I also treat myself at the end of it. So I like to do a little play after going deep diving into my own brain, which I often do a lot. But I treat myself to either a massage, or I go to Rafa Yoga Urban Sweats, or I get something that I've been wanting for 3 months, or I purchase something, whatever, just to reward, not have a reward, because I think everybody should treat themselves at all times, but just something extra, you know?
Of course, I love that idea because doing that self-evaluation is not easy,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like that to spend time looking at yourself, like really looking at what you have achieved, what you haven't achieved, what you
Mm-hmm.
feel good about, what you don't feel good about.
Mm-hmm.
That's hard work, right? Like that takes some energy and some time. I think it's a great idea to reward yourself. And I love the fact that you reward yourself with ways of pampering yourself
Mm-hmm.
and you don't reward yourself with things that are going to just perpetuate negative habits in your life. You know, like we don't go out for like an ice cream sundae if part of our goals are to be healthy and to have better food habits. And then I reward myself for being good about my food. And then I go eat something that's not good food wise. Right.
Which, I mean, I have been guilty as well. I mean, you also you have to have a balance, right?
Mhm.
I don't like rewarding myself with food because then we often in the past I have, but now I've kind of looked at it as, you know, I deserve to eat. You know, we all deserve to eat, and especially when you know, struggle with like binge eating and eating disorders and stuff. It's this good and bad conversation that we always talk about, right?
Yeah.
You know, I think we associate that with food, and I think when you reward yourself with food, it plays into those things, and in reality, it's something that you need. So it's not really a reward, you know?
Yes. It's been bastardized. I mean, our marketing companies in our world now know that we all have food triggers.
Hmm.
And they can market like that. It's
This is
crazy.
true. But don't worry, I definitely dabble in my desserts. I've been baking all year, and my baking skills have gotten way better.
Oh,
So
for sure. But what have you figured out that like baking it from scratch and learning to play with it, you have so much more control over it?
control, but I also just, you know, feel better about what is happening and like what I'm eating. And it tastes better. I mean, I love going to bakeries and like going out to eat, but it just tastes better when you make it yourself and you have that I accomplished something feeling.
Yeah.
And you also watch other people eat it, you know, and they're loving it too. It gives you another satisfaction from it.
Huge. Huge. And you said that earlier, actually, I want to touch on real quick that you said when you're evaluating, you think about how you've brought joy to other people
Hmm.
too. That's huge.
Hmm.
I mean, I don't hear many people say that line, and that's a lot.
I think you should hear more people say that. I think our society lacks empathy
Mm,
and lacks accountability. And I don't think people think about how they want to portrayed. I mean, but who cares how you're portrayed, depending on what you're looking at. And two, but mostly how the way you act makes other people feel, right?
right. The impact we have on people, right?
Because you have impact. I mean, everybody has an impact on somebody, right? Like whatever I say or do impacts you. It'll impact like my household, and you know, it's
Yeah.
just acknowledging how you have affected other people's life in a positive way. I think is really nice, but also realizing the factors behind all that in a negative way too, because not every interaction you're going to have with people is going to be amazing. You know,
What?
you're
I think that's
human.
bullshit. That's bullshit.
You're gonna snap at people. You're gonna you know, be attitudinal. You know, tell people to move on when you don't like what they're talking about.
For
Mm.
sure. I know that there are plenty of people in my life that can attest to that. But I like that focus because I have never found, well, let me say this better. I have found personally that when I work at helping provide joy, that when I work at being aware of my impact, when I work at trying to not please people, but be a positive influence. And Dana, your mom just said it perfectly. Pay it forward.
Where I learn
When you are
everything from.
exactly, well, moms are good influences.
Mm.
They have paid it forward as well. But when we have that intention, I get positive from that, right? Like I feel good when I spend time and I do things that are good for other people. That makes me feel good.
Mm-hmm.
And then you don't have to go around looking for things that make you feel good. You have simply done what makes this world better, paying it forward.
And it's not to like make people feel good to make you feel good type, it's,
No.
you're doing it because you actually want to impact someone, you want to put good things into this world when we all desperately need it, especially
Yes.
right now. Um, I think you definitely need to pay it forward. Why be selfish? I mean, certain things you should be selfish on, like, putting yourself first, make
Mhm.
sure you have boundaries, not giving too much of yourself to people, which I'm also very guilty of. Um, but I mean, it does make you feel good when you make other people feel good. So why not reflect on that? Why not, focus on the good things you do to people or for
Yeah.
people? Because especially with me, I have anxiety about how I'm portrayed, to people. I, always worried about how my actions or what I say influences other people and very cognitive of that. But when you can focus on something positive that you did, it kind of takes away those negative thoughts, and that anxiety of I'm actually doing well. I did good things in this 3 months or however, whenever you do your processing. And then,
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with you. I don't think it works if you do it with the intention of getting something back, right?
mhm,
It's like giving a gift. If you give a gift so that you hope to get something back, then it completely defeats the purpose. But
mhm,
when you give a gift to somebody because you know that they will be excited or happy or they will enjoy it, you buy something or you find something, you give somebody time or whatever it is that you give, if you give it selflessly, you say, this is just something I knew you would love.
mhm.
That just comes back in huge rewards. Even if you just to see the look on their face, to see pure joy in somebody, it's just amazing.
It's true. It is. And, I've struggled so much with that expectation portion and
Mm.
expecting too much from other people and like wondering why or questioning why I may not receive that back from people. But, going to our theme of know when to hold them, know when to fold them. If you're not receiving the things that you're giving, maybe not as equal, but at least like something to, because everybody gives their love and affection and empathy in different ways.
Oh
If
yeah.
you're not receiving anything from something or from whatever situation you're in, if it's a person, if it's like a job, if it's whatever you're doing, it may be time to fold them, which is not an easy decision either.
That's a macro micro conversation. Because I've found I had this conversation with a therapist one time. It was about a relationship I was in, and my therapist had me go deeper into it and look at, like, by going deeper into it, to come back a little bit. That's why I love the fact that you do that perspective thing frequently enough, that it gives you the opportunity to see that. Because what I have found in my past is when I felt like I was being imbalanced in one particular relationship, I found that there were other relationships in my life that gave a complementary imbalance. Does that
Mhm,
make sense? Like,
mhm,
if somebody's pulling too much from me on one side and it's always like, oh, I'm always just giving to this person, I was able to find that there were other people that were always giving to me,
mhm,
and then I could look at the whole, my life as a whole or my relationships as a whole. We have so many different friendships in that sense that, like, there are some friendships that you constantly chase after, just to stay in touch, or you're just that side of the relationship. And then there's other sides where other people are chasing after you.
mhm.
But I
It's
agree. I think that your focus and being able to see that as a long term, and to see that in both micro and macro, will help you understand when it is okay to let go and when
mhm,
it is okay to walk away. You know, whether it's a job, whether it's a relationship, whether it's an endeavor, it's a really important line, I think. And you said it simply by just saying knowing your boundaries, but
mhm.
that's a big, broad statement. When you say boundaries, what do you mean by that?
I still don't know what boundaries mean. I think it depends on the it's I hate that because everything can be different for each situation.
Mm.
But if we're talking about people, I think it's, knowing when enough is enough for me and knowing when to speak up, um, is huge for me, which is something I still am learning. And, through therapy, I have, worked on that and I continue to work on that because it's something that I really struggle with is putting up those boundaries. And I think everybody especially when you live your life as an empath. It's really hard to put up boundaries because you want to help people and you want to be there for people, and then oftentimes yourself is put on a back burner, and then somewhere down the road you realize that, wow, this is a lot. Like I need a boundary, but now it's trying to realize when I need those boundaries before it gets too far down the road. I don't know. Boundaries are tough. They're very tough because they're different for every person. You have to know what your boundary is, right? Like when you're giving too much of yourself. That's kind of how I look at it.
Yeah.
What do you look at boundaries as?
I think it's the same definition in like the relational side of it. But I think boundaries are a description of what is okay and not okay in your world.
Mm-hmm.
For me, at least for a broad stroke of it, like a real broad painting of it. These are things that are okay.
Mm-hmm.
These are things that are not okay. And within that, that's not black and white, right? There's some gray area, which I think is what you're saying, that you have to subjectively be aware of it on an ongoing basis,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because it'll change. It'll change as we get older. It'll change based on circumstances. What you used to believe would be a very distinct line in boundaries as far as what you would do for work or, the kind of relationship that you would have can definitely change.
Yeah.
Because you have to figure out what the balance is,
And it can even change based on your mood, right? Like one day you can handle it, and then the next day maybe you can't handle it. So you have to know that day and be okay with it too, right? You have to be okay with speaking up, and the other person should also be okay with you putting up that boundary and respect that boundary. And if they don't, maybe it's time to look at, wanting to fold that person from your life.
Yes.
It's not easy either. I
No.
think everybody struggles with that.
I find the delivery of the message is always one of the most important factors in that. If you're in a situation, whether it's job, it's work, it's relational, whatever it is, if you're able to communicate honestly and clearly and lovingly, this is a boundary for me. I need a couple of moments and I will be better for you when I come back. I'm not okay with this. If you can say things like that because you've realized it in your life that this is something that I'm not okay with, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then instead of it coming out aggressively or coming out at pointing fingers or pointing blame or assigning blame, right? We're so quick to do that. To take it on yourself and just say, look, this has got nothing to do with the situation or you. This is me. This is where I am today. Not okay. And I'm going to go do this.
Yeah.
And I'll come back.
Yeah. And I think having that, taking the time to say those things is really important, because I don't know about you, but I internalize things. So if someone just like flat out ignored me one day after, being there for me 1 minute and then just ignored me, I would take that as I'm bothering them. I'm a problem. Maybe I shouldn't talk to them about this, which, maybe you should be talking to other people about your problems. But that's another podcast. But, not internalizing it. When you speak and you say what you mean and you are intentional about how you go about things, it's really important, especially if we're talking about people, right? Because I am for sure going to overanalyze every single thing that you just said to me or did, or your actions to figure out what I did wrong. But in reality, it probably has nothing to even do with me. But if you say, I just need a minute, this is nothing, this is not about you. I had a tough day. I need a break. That's so much better than just being like, stop talking or not even answering,
Oh, well, because it's easy to say it now. Like when you and I are relaxed and comfortable and just having a conversation, it's easy to say, "Oh, I'm having a tough time handling this current conversation. I
Mhm.
will take a moment to take a deep breath," as opposed to "Shut the fuck up. I need time." Like there's usually terrible responses that our ego self or that our emotional
Mhm.
responses come out with. I agree. I think that practice the pause, right? Right. Whenever you have something that comes up, whatever that emotion is that comes up, whether it's negative or positive, practice the pause, assess. How's
Figure
this going
out
to
what
come
that
out?
emotion is,
Yeah,
because
that's
that's not going to go away.
no.
That emotion won't go away, but you can at least understand it or try to understand it, and then work on it with whoever, with either yourself or that person. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
because you shouldn't shy away from the tough conversations. I think that you should stay in them and just say, talk about why it's tough for you or explain what you're feeling in that moment instead of just blowing up. Because I know my mom's watching. She knows I have blown up in the past. Like I used to not be able to have these tough conversations. I would literally just walk away. I would just like walk away and just not say anything and then just leave that person being like, what the heck just happened? Why did he leave? And I would just like not respond because I just didn't know how to either process what was going on in my own brain, and my own heart. I didn't want to hurt someone with what I was thinking of saying, right?
yeah.
Or how I would respond to it if I knew that it wouldn't have been a productive conversation, which most times when we're angry, it's usually not productive. Or at least it's not productive when I'm angry. Um, I don't know. I kind of lost my train of thought there.
No, it's okay. We're on the right path here. My mom used to say it this way: is say what you mean what you say.
Yeah,
Just don't say it mean. Right?
yeah.
Like, so say it with intention, but be conscious of what is speaking, right? Like you said, sit with that emotion a little bit,
Mhm,
right? So hold them, right? Just hold your emotions. We're so quick to try and alleviate emotions, whether
mhm.
it's a good emotion or it's a scary emotion or it's a, fear-based or anger, whatever. Whenever we get that emotion, we're just so quick to try and fix it or to alleviate it.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're better off just sitting with it and kind of trying to figure out where it's coming from. What is
And
all
I
that?
sit with it. If you still wanna leave that situation, great, leave it, but
Right.
have no, guilt about it because that's your decision, you know?
Yeah, and leave consciously, right? Like
Mhm.
be aware of, okay, so yeah, I'm really not comfortable here. This is not a place that I want to be, and it's because I'm in this current situation and I know that if I take a deep breath and take a step away, then I'm going to feel better, as opposed to either ignoring people as you walk away or saying something you're going to regret saying,
Mhm.
because you just need that space anyway. You need to separate yourself from it.
Yeah.
Why
So
do you think why do you think people rush out of those emotions so quick? Like why are we so reticent to feel something that doesn't feel good? Obviously, it's because it sucks. Like if I feel guilty about something, or if I have fear about something that's coming up, or anxiety about something, obviously it sucks, right? Like those are not good emotions to have, obviously. But without labeling it as good and bad, which is a good start, right? It just is.
Mhm.
Why do you think we run out of it so fast?
I think it has to do with ego a lot. I think whenever we're in uncomfortable situations, we kind of, at least I do, I internalize how I did something wrong, or, I maybe wasn't my best self in that moment, or I wasn't, or you just don't know what to do or what to say. Like you don't know, which also bruises the ego, right? That you don't know something or you don't understand something. And I think anytime you bring that ego into it, right, which
Hmm.
we all do it. And if you say you don't, um,
Just
then
lying to yourself.
yeah. um, but I mean, it's true, right? If you feel bad about something, right? Like, why do you feel bad about it? Or it's like, oh, I did this, right? I did this wrong. It kind of plays into your psyche a little bit about how you inherently, it turns into that language of, oh, I did something bad. I am bad, brings into that ego a bit, and it's not fun. It's not a good feeling,
Yeah.
when you feel you did something wrong, or you said something wrong, or you maybe, just don't understand, right? It kind of makes you feel dumb, stupid, like all those bad things being listed that you also struggle with every day, and that you now think that someone sees it, and you're just like, the shell has been broken when you didn't want it to be broken.
That protector. So we use the phrase often here, and you've used it several times recently here. What does ego mean to you? Because I have this conversation often, and it is a challenge, because what we've been taught the definition of ego is often misconstrued for what the application here is, right? Like what we're using it for here is a little different than the traditional definition of ego in that sense. Because I would not describe you as somebody that has an ego problem, right? I wouldn't describe myself as somebody that has an ego problem, but I would certainly describe my emotional state or some of the challenges that I've dealt with in my life as being specifically an ego problem.
Yeah.
Right. So what have you learned? What do you define ego as?
So for me, if I feel that I don't understand something, kind of like imposter syndrome, like I don't feel like I belong somewhere, but my situation or people, say something that makes me feel that I don't belong, that to me is what my ego is, right? I think, it's hard to define something that you also don't want people to know. But I think everybody has an ego, and it's not the ego of that most people would first think of, that person's like, feels like they're too good, they're blah, blah, like all these, if I live in the business world, right, you think someone in the business world may have or lawyers or something, they have this stereotypical ego that in reality, half the time it's not even there. It's all surface, right? We're talking about underneath ego that no one sees, but you're overly analyzing things, right? You overanalyze things that you are deep down within you, that you don't want people to see. That's the ego I'm talking about.
Sense of identity, self-identity, right? That I'm not like you said, I feel bad, so thus I'm a bad person. And in my ego mind, I'm not a bad person. So now I have conflict with that thought process.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
It's like your shadow, the things hiding behind the wall that you don't want anybody to see, but you see. Yeah. Type of thing.
But those aren't bad, right?
No. But we inherit them as being bad, or we think that they're bad, or we think it's something that we did, I'm talking about from my experience too. So
yeah. Oh, for sure.
Not everybody struggles with these things. But I think deep down, there's something that we all have insecurities about,
Which is the same application for awareness, right? Like, is that perspective, is that portrayal of myself what I want to portray myself as, right? Like, am I presenting to the world what I want to present? Am I bringing my better self forward? Am I allowing the balance of my shadow self, right? Because we are still the complex creatures that we are, which is the duality of everything, right? There's still the negative and the positive, and they just are, but you are a sum of your parts. You are not a singular, right? We're all of our choices.
Just like you're some of your environment, your experiences, the people around you, we all develop these, ego things within us, if you want to call it that, from everything leading up to today, right?
Yeah.
And my conversations with you also impact me, everything. It's just, and I think also when you're doing this deep dive stuff, you need to also make sure that you are being forgiving of those sides of you, that you look at as bad. Because not everything is, good or bad. I hate using those good or bad terms. I really do.
I agree wholeheartedly. I actually just wrote down that label emotions, meaning we're so quick to put that definition around it, right? Like, I feel angry. This is bad. I shouldn't. I'm not an angry person. I'm not a bad person. I shouldn't. There's no, there's that ego battle, right? That battle with the way that you identify yourself when it's okay, right?
Mhm.
Like, it's okay to be angry. It's just not okay to take it out on people,
And
right? It's not
even if
okay.
it's like a positive view, right? Like if you
Yeah.
are viewed as a strong person, somehow that makes it so that you can't be, weak at times, or you can't have those emotions, or that you always need to be strong, when in reality, most people aren't even looking at you in a certain way. I think it all has to do with what's going on within yourself. Personally, I don't think anybody actually cares, like, if you were strong that day. I mean, you may need to be strong at times, but most people don't even know what's going on within other people.
I do miss that from the gym, because when I would help people get more acclimated, more comfortable in the larger gyms, the most common response was, I don't want people to watch me and look at me while I'm working out. Like that insecurity of being watched.
I still
Whenever
struggle with that.
I know, which is amazing considering how proficient you are in the gym, and how many years you've spent in the gym. But when I was in the larger spaces, it was a really easy application. I mean, in the studio now that we train in, it's large enough, but it's certainly not full of hundreds of people. But I could always take somebody and have them do a slow circle and look around the gym and see if they could find anybody watching them. And when you're in a large room and there's enough people in that room that you would figure somebody's watching, and then you can't find people watching, it's a real quick reminder that, like, even if somebody like glances through you or like is aware of you for a moment, 99.9% of the time, the entire world could give a shit. Right? Like, most people are just doing their own thing.
Yeah.
Like, they don't care what you're doing. But we worry about that so much.
And if they care, it's for like that fraction of a second, and then they just like forget. We talk about road rage a lot, right?
Oh yeah.
Second, we're really angry, right? But then we just move on.
Next. Well, that's one of those that I've learned to let go of. Like, when I find myself in those emotions, it's, you spend a couple minutes there and try and breathe, right? Like, try and recognize, okay, I can say that I feel angry right now. Do I want to be?
Yeah.
That was what, like, when Lori talked about that a couple of weeks ago, first question is always, when you feel yourself escalating or when you feel yourself dipping, am I in a fight or flight situation? Is my life in danger?
Yeah.
If it's not, because if it is, then stop worrying about it and start dealing with your life and death danger situation, right? Stop thinking and journaling and actually worry about the lion. But if you're not, which is 99.9% of the time it's not going to be, then why? Like, what do I want to be angry? Do I want to be scared? Do I want to be fearful? Is this serving me?
And if you want to be those things, okay, give
Yeah.
it space to be.
Yeah.
But do you want to be angry your whole life? I was angry for so long when I was, I think, like, teenage years and like college years, until I graduated, like, just a little bit, just a little bit. And then I kind of just like woke up and I'm like, or something happened at school and I realized how I came off to someone, and that like, even though nothing's going on up here or I didn't mean anything, but someone like took it a wrong way or took it a way that they took it. And I
Yeah.
don't want to say a wrong way, because how they took it is how they took it. And there's nothing you can do about that, except listen and acknowledge that you did that, and then either work on it or take it for what it was. Right. Um, I kind of had that like wake up call. I'm like, oh, I wasn't angry at you, but just angry in general. I just have this face, this serious looking face. I don't know what to tell you. I apologize.
But that's a choice, right?
Hmm.
Right. And then you can, I like how you say it though, that you say sit in it. So sit in it. Like whether it's a meditation that you do that day or whether it's 30 seconds that you just take for yourself, right? Like allow yourself to feel those emotions. We're an amazing, complex chemical reaction ongoing, right?
Hmm.
Experience it and then choose. Is this something that is worthwhile? That's why I like the know when to hold them, fold them thing. Because how many of us have played poker where you're literally holding on to,
Poker.
huh?
Not at the casino, because I
Yeah.
get too nervous. But when I'm at home, I'm good.
But we've all held on to cards in our hands
Hmm.
that are absolute shit. You know you're not going to win, right? Like you know you don't need these cards, but we're so quick to hold on to it and just say, it might get better. That might come up. I might get an ace on the flop or whatever we're playing here. But I think it's important to know that it's okay to stay with stuff that we don't normally perceive as positive or beneficial for us,
Hmm.
but that you can get rid of them too.
Yeah.
You can make that choice. Like you said, you made that choice. I don't want to be angry. I don't want to be seen as angry, right? Let it go.
Yeah.
Because we choose how we are defining ourselves and then how other people define us in a lot of ways, right?
Especially this year too. So much has happened in this
Mm.
past year, right? We've had so much loss. We've all experienced so much grief. Do you want to wish you let go of something, or experience your best self or your most joyful times, or do you want to be focusing so much on the past that you should have let go at that time, but you didn't, and you held on, and or you wish you did something differently? You want to enjoy the one life we get as much as you can. It's like if you bring it to food, do you want to have that cupcake, or do you are you gonna spend the whole day thinking about that cupcake and having that cupcake, and you know wish you had it all the way to the
Right.
end?
Right.
Yeah.
But in the same sense, am I going to regret eating it? Right. Like,
Mhm.
so am I going to satisfy that craving and just own it and move on with my life? Or am I going to beat myself up about it for 3 or 4 days? Like I should have had that cupcake.
Yeah.
No, let go of that shit. To enjoy the cupcake though. Right.
Not everything's that deep. You don't have to dive deep into every single part of you,
Mhm.
every single thing that happened that day, or not everything is that deep, right?
What? Are you
What?
sure? Are
What?
you sure? This feels very serious.
Maybe deep in the moment, you may feel that you need to analyze it in that moment. Certain things are bigger than others, and it depends on what you value, right?
Of
But
course.
I don't know. Some things you just have to let go, and some things you should hold on to. You have to make that decision.
Regularly.
Hmm.
That's good. That's good. So I think we should fight the labels. We're in a world now where we're labeling so many things.
I hate
Um,
labels.
it's not a bad thing to have an understanding that we all have differences or that there's a different emotion between happiness and sad. That's why it's called such.
Hmm.
But when we label it, we put descriptors that are intentional and unintentional on it, and we painted a color already in our minds. You can you can you could probably give me colors for sadness, right? Like you could give me colors for happiness, and all of this is subjective, obviously. But if we're so connect it to the description of something like that, then we're defining it by that label, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to understanding the reality behind it. Right? Like, what is making me that way? Is it helping me? Am I getting something from it? Is it helping serve my future, my positive? Is this something that I'm going to be super proud of? Is this something that I'm going to be grateful for? Or is this something that I'm going to be regretful of?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
I agree. I think, and we're so quick to label things, right? You know, especially with social media. If we talk about social media, right, we're so quick to, you know, get that out there or get things out there. Like the media, so quick to post things, even though you don't have all the facts yet. But then it gives other people right to feed off of that.
Oh, yeah.
And spread more misinformation. I think we do the same in our own brains, right? You know, if we label that something, then we run with it. We run with it. And
Oh, for sure.
And it's destructive. It's very destructive.
Because it doesn't serve you to paint that picture.
Mm-hmm.
No,
not at
all.
I mean, it could be a picture in that moment, right? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a struggle. It's not easy either. It's just,
well, life is full of grays. Life is full of grays.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and to put one very specific color on something. You know, that we went and saw a movie this weekend to celebrate a friend's birthday. Live action Beauty and the Beast. And I am not ashamed to say that movie makes me sob. Like, I had tears rolling down my cheeks a couple of times during that movie. And not because I was sad.
Most Disney movies make you cry. Putting that out there. Disney don't sue us for mentioning it.
Yes. But those are good, right? Like that was an overwhelming feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And I just, honestly, when I watch stuff like that, I try not to label it. I try not to fight it. I just let it go and enjoy it and go on the roller coaster emotional ride and experience it for what it is. And then try to, like, you know, wipe my eyes without anybody else seeing me.
My mom and I were watching the Dolly Parton tribute on Netflix. And they're just singing her songs, right? They're not even really saying, they're just singing her songs. And then all of a sudden we looked at each other and we were crying. And we had no clue why we're crying, right? We were just crying. I think it actually, have you ever tried to hold in a cry?
Oh, yeah.
It hurt. And I think it hurt. It's uncomfortable. It like, it just makes you not, it's better to get the cry out, I think, than it is.
Any emotion, suppressing it. A very good friend of ours, Glenn, used to say to me, if you try and suppress emotions, it's like taking a soda bottle and like shaking it up and then trying to pack something into it too. You know, like you try to pack those emotions down and then
it explodes at some point.
Oh my God. Yeah. That's the point, right? To pay attention to whatever's going on in your world, right? To allow things. You'll be okay. It's not bad. It's not good. It just is. Decide if that's what you want, though. Right?
You are in control of your own life.
Damn right. At least that's the choice, right? You have a choice. You can either just survive and make it through it, or you can actually thrive. Pay attention. Want to thank our amazing producer, who is the silent producer today, Benjamin Barber, in the background, making sure that everything happens on our end technologically. Thank you again, Meg. Always a pleasure. Appreciate. Well, thank you for that. I appreciate the candor. I
showered today, though. All good.
I couldn't tell. But I appreciate the effort. Our viewers appreciate the effort. Thank you, everybody, for chiming in, whether you're listening live or you're listening on a recorded version. I appreciate you. We appreciate you. You ever have any questions relating to your health and fitness, please reach out. Don't be shy. ThriveTrainingTeam.com is the website. We've got all the social links and any other information relating to what we do. But you're also welcome to just shoot out a question or an email whenever you have anything going on in your world. Remember, folks, don't label those emotions. Just experience them. Life is way too short. Have a great time out there. Remember, say what you mean what you say. Just don't say it mean. Bye, folks. We'll see you soon.
For more information, tips, and workouts of the day, check out thrivetrainingteam.com.